again with Alter Bridge. So the only album I really reviewed by this band was Alter Bridge Blackbird, which was a fair while ago now. So this has been a long time to actually get back to them again. So AB3, so basically Alter Bridge album 3. They've just called it 3. Some people may think that's lazy, but a lot of famous bands have done great self-titled albums, so I don't think there's really much to it. So Alter Bridge 3 was the second album I kind of got into by this band. It was actually fairly well received by the general public as well as critics. It was probably actually way more received than the album Blackbird. I think people probably actually preferred AB3 over the album Blackbird for just being a lot more unique, having better musicianship, better kind of lyrics and meaning, and a better vibe, and just basically just being an improvement all round over the album Blackbird. Now, later down the line, Alter Bridge did release AB.5. And I'll explain what that is later in the review. So I'm just going to basically get into a general kind of talk about what the album kind of gives, and then kind of go track by track a little bit, and then get into what the point 5 is. So AB3, it is a fairly different and unusual sounding album compared to Blackbird, as well as the first album that they released, and probably fairly different to every album Alter Bridge has released to date. It is a very unique album. It's even unique by other band standards. It is a very different sounding album, which is a good thing and also a bad thing. I remember the first time when I heard Alter Bridge, I basically heard a track off of WWE. Not that I like WWE, I think it's shit. But a friend of mine, he watched WWE, and there was a wrestler called The Edge or something, and he came out to this theme tune that sounded amazing. Now, this theme was basically Alter Bridge, and that is how I came to find them. So I listened to like a few kind of snippets and tracks of Blackbird. I didn't really get into the full album. The full album I actually gave a try to was Alter Bridge 3 when it actually released. I gave it a listen. I got a few tracks in. I got to maybe Still Remains, All Hope Is Gone. And then I got bored and just thought, yeah, this is a shit album. And didn't give it any listen for basically a fair few amount of months, if not years, until I basically kind of started listening to I think Blackbird again, and then I really kind of got into that, and then I got into AB3 eventually, and then into Fortress. So the reason why I thought it was pretty bad was basically because of the fact that it is so unusual in sound and style. So Alter Bridge is kind of known as, some people would say hard rock, other people will kind of say it's kind of like a hard rock / metal style of thing they have going. I do think a lot of people do kind of class them as hard rock, which is probably what they are. They are kind of hard rock. I do think they have the slightest element of metal, but it's not like heavy metal / hard rock. It is definitely hard rock with small elements of metal thrown in. I think that's as far as you can really push them. So the weird thing about this album is you kind of have the kind of sound of what metal is and the sound of what hard rock is. Now, AB3 goes for this very blues jazz style of sound. It's got a lightness to the sound. It's not really very heavy and, you know, extremely technical and advanced. It's this really light, bright sounding album that's very kind of soft and musical instead of doing anything really bombastic. And because of that, then the general consensus is it is a bit slow because you miss these heavy elements. Slip to the Void starts soft, then it progresses to heavy. Isolation is a heavy track. Ghost of Days Gone By is soft. All Hope Is Gone is kind of soft. Still Remains is kind of soft. Wonderful Life is extremely soft. Show Me a Sign is kind of soft. Breathe Again is kind of soft. Life Must Go On is kind of soft. Mostly all the tracks on this album are very soft. These bright musical sounds and just musical. There's nothing very heavy and hard hitting, therefore it just comes across as a little slow and dull. Unless you have the ear for this sort of thing, you need to kind of develop your ear in order to kind of appreciate the kind of sound that's happening. If you're just a general standard metal fan, then this is going to be very difficult to get into because it is so like just musical and bright sounding. It's not your typical metal or hard rock even, which is what they mostly are. So Slip to the Void, the first track, you have this slow kind of start with Miles Kennedy. He sounds great. He's a fantastic singer. He has a wide octave range, so can hit a lot of difficult notes, high to low. And yeah, it's just kind of slow. It kind of slowly builds it up, and then eventually the song kind of just explodes into this kind of heavy kind of rhythm and everything. The riffs, they're pretty decent. Usually their riffs are just some really hard, intense kind of sounding riffs. Nothing overly intricate. Slip to the Void has some intricacy with some of the riffs that are going on, but mostly it's just these big, intense sounding riffs that they got going that just really have a kick to them. There is a lead in the song. I don't think it's really that great. It is just Mark Tremonti basically just creeping in to do a little bit of a whittle there, and then he comes back out, and then they carry on with the melody. Then he creeps in, a little bit of a whittle there, then he leaves and they carry on with the melody. He creeps in, does a little whittle again. So it's not really diverse, and it's not really consistent solo. It's very chopped, and each chop section is basically a repeat of what he's already done, and he does it 4 bloody times. There is no kind of, okay, well, this is a technical chop, this is a musical chop, this is a catchy chop. If he'd kind of chopped it up into different styles of solos, that would have been probably a bit better than basically just chopped versions of what he just did. Therefore, kind of lacking diversity and lacks that much of an interest. And all these kind of whittling, shreddy things, they're definitely not what you would say is overly musical. Therefore, you can't really say that his solo was that musical and had that much of a kind of decent melody to it. It's just a technical whittle. There's not really anything to it, and they last like 2-3 seconds a piece. So the solo is a little naff. It's kind of crap. The speed is, and what he's doing, yeah, it's, technical, it's talent, but it doesn't mean it therefore sounds great. Someone can just do the fastest thing and just never move their fucking hand. Now, granted, it's extremely fast. He's doing it over and over and over again for now a minute, and he's not moved his hand in the slightest. Yeah, it's fast. It does not make it really that talented or musical or that gifted. He's just really fast, just doing one phrase just over and over again, which is somewhat what Tremonti does. Yeah, he does change the position. He's not doing the exact fucking same thing, but you understand where I'm coming from. It is basically just in the realm of very similar. So it doesn't make it that different, that interesting. It's just too boring, too dull, too repetitive. So what you have with the first track is just a kind of decent song. There's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing too epic about it. Yeah, you have 2 different contrasts between the soft to the heavy, but the soft is not really the soft kind of melody for it being a melody section. It is just a slow build-up to enter the song. So it's not going for this is what the song could be. There's not much of one there. It's just this really somber tones mixed in with the vocals of Miles until the song kind of kicks in. So you can't really say there's some nice contrast there. The solo is naff, and then the rest of the song is just some decent sounding riffs and some good vocal work. Other than that, there's not really much to it. And then we get Isolation. The intro I can actually play on guitar. A little sloppily, granted. I play it faster than Mark, but I think beginner guitarists always, when they keep practicing, they just constantly increase the speed and then just go past the speed of what is supposed to be the stopping point. So I do play a fair bit quicker than Mark, but that basically just means I'm not playing it properly. But it's still a pretty intense kind of intro. It's nothing too complicated. The only complicated thing is basically just trying to keep up with the kind of speed and tempo of the whole thing. It sounds great, but it is basically the fact that he's got it in a drop D or something. He is basically just whacking out the top string a lot. So there is no kind of intricate multi-chord, multi-string style things. Everything for that intro is all the top string. That is all you've got. Just open top string to kind of, picked kind of fretted top string stuff. So it's just a lot of whacking the top string, just open fret, and then just doing the odd kind of frets, and just keep everything in time and everything without putting in too many, open notes. So it is just a lot of top string whacking, and then just some intricate speed frets as you go along, just to keep up with the intense speed of it. So it's a good sounding intro, but technically, even though it sounds quite fast, quite technical, there is actually not that much to it, to be honest. It's kind of a little fate, because it's just a lot of open fret, but because it's going fast, you kind of think it's faster and more technical than it is, but anyone can just whack out just a load of open top string notes. The only tricky part is when it comes to fretting, and just make sure everything's in time between the open fret and then actually fret, and make sure you're open for the open fret and you're not kind of fretting where it was supposed to be open. That's the only kind of tricky thing there. There's some nice kind of sounds from Miles in the intro. He'll do some kind of nice kind of half bends in the kind of 12th fret. 12th string, not 12th string, there's not 12 strings, bottom string basically. 12th fret, he does some kind of half bends. He does 3 of them. Again, not really complicated, just if you know where you're bending to, that is basically it, but it does kind of sound pretty nice. It does have a nice sound. I really enjoy doing the bends just because I think they sound great. Other than that, the entire kind of verse is basically just this kind of a lot of kind of like palm mute, open kind of open frets, top string stuff. That is the majority of your kind of verse. It sounds beefy, it sounds fast, it sounds technical, but it's a little kind of sound trickery to make it sound technical, but it actually isn't from what's being played. So yeah, it sounds great, but it's not as technical as one would think. The bends from Miles sound also pretty decent. There's some leads throughout from Mark, which are again just these kind of, I'm going to sneak in and do a bit of a whittle, so there's nothing special about it. It's just, just a kind of well done. That was a nice kind of technical showmanship. Other than that, not really anything musical to appreciate. The actual solo is actually played by Miles. It's not Mark Tremonti doing the solo, it's Miles Kennedy. Now, I have a problem with Miles' portrayal of the solo in this song, basically because of what Miles usually stands for, his usual kind of play and his style. It's not the style of Isolation solo. Miles has a unique style to him, basically. Miles' style is to be kind of a very blues, kind of jazz style of guitarist. He does the really kind of blues, really musical, depressing style of things. A lot of holds and bends and stuff. That is his style, which is a massive differential compared to that of Mark Tremonti, who is a bit more of the kind of beast and technical side of things, but with musical elements thrown in. Obviously, not so far for this album, but that's usually the case with him. And then as for Miles, he is the bluesy, depressing, emotional style of stuff, which is two great different contrasts from two different kind of worlds of genres. Which is depressing because Isolation, again, is mostly just a technical solo with a bit of a melody put on at the end, and it lasts a few seconds. So it's pretty bad, basically. So Isolation is a fun, energetic song. It has some great sounding riffs. They're not as technical as one would think. There are two lead plays by Mark, but it is basically just a show of his technical prowess. Words aren't working for me. And that is basically it. Nothing really musical. They only last a few seconds. The actual solo, again, is just maybe 2 or 3 seconds on top of what Mark has portrayed before. And it is just, again, just kind of more whittling and nothing exactly overly musical. It's pretty crap. But it's an upbeat, energetic, really fun song. The kind of bends that is done in the intro and the kind of riffs that they got going all sound pretty great. So it's a very engaging song. You can have fun with it. Ghost of Days Gone By is a musical. It really kind of brings the tone down. It's got this really nice finger-picked rhythm by Mark Tremonti. It sounds brilliant. Obviously, again, this is something you need to develop your kind of ear for to kind of appreciate this sort of thing, because it's not one of these dark melodies. It's this really bright finger-picked, very beautiful sounding rhythm. So you definitely need an ear for it, but if you do, it is very beautiful. It's a well thought out rhythm that Mark has done for this song. And then with Miles coming in, it just sounds really nice. It's so relaxing. It's beautiful. The chorus is a bit bland, to be honest. There's not much to it. The best part is definitely the kind of verses, just because Mark's rhythm is just so beautiful, and because of how beautiful and well thought out it is, you can say it is therefore technical, because he had to actually think of something so beautiful, and that is definitely talent in itself, to think of something that is actually nice and engaging. It's just a shame that the chorus doesn't have any kind of beautiful rhythm to it. It's just some simple kind of chords and stuff. Not much to it. There is a solo, but the solo is unbelievably bad. Tremonti has kind of gone on record to basically explain the solo, just saying the song didn't need really that much of a long solo. I did have a longer one, but I just think the song was so perfect the way it was that I didn't want to take away from it, so I just did a short solo. He's wrong. A solo is not going to take away from a song. The rest of the song is always going to be there. You're not taking parts of it away. You're just putting in a solo. So that's a load of bollocks. It's a really stupid fucking comment when people do that. It's really thick. It's stupid. He should have done a proper solo to give a lot more life and a lot more variation and a lot more different musical elements to the song. But no, he was brain dead and thick and decided to do a really stupid choice and have a stupid answer for it to show that he was pretty stupid in his thought for this. So that is unbelievably fucking annoying, because it would have been nice to... He had a great rhythm for the verse. Imagine what a good lengthy solo would have been in this sort of realm. I don't get that. No one does, because he decided not to. It's frustrating. It's stupid. So, yeah, it's just really bad. The verses in Ghost of Days Gone By, brilliant. Chorus, pretty bland, nothing really to it. The solo, pretty shit. And the bridge kind of section, things get a little bit kind of heavier, but it's just pretty much dull. All Hope Is Gone is kind of a song that is one of their big ones, but I don't get why. All Hope Is Gone is really dull. It's rather boring. There's nothing very special to it. I don't think musically it's very interesting. It's that musical. It's just a bit bland to me. It's a little boring. People think the solo is absolutely incredible. Again, I think the solo is really naff. I think it's shit. It's not got much of anything, and it only lasts a few seconds. So far we've had some slight interesting things and really bad fucking solos from the both of the guys. So it's pretty shocking so far. Still Remains is a bit more of kind of upbeat song. I don't think there's a solo in it. There may be a solo actually. I'm a little confused between Still Remains and Make It Right. One of them has actually got a really good solo in it, and then the other one doesn't have a solo. But is heavier, and then the other one, the song is a bit kind of slower and a little dull, but has a really great solo to it. So we do get in one of them tracks a really good solo. It's very musical. It has some great rhythm to it, some good musicality to it, and some technical aspects to it, just to come up with something musical, and to know when to play, when to have a hold, when to slow down, when to speed up and do something a little bit more technical. Just well thought out solo. Wonderful Life is a track that I never listened to. I delete it. I hate it. It sounds fucking awful. It is an old Disney fucking sounding track. It is unbelievably bad. I think one of the members have actually gone out and said that this track sounds something like fucking Disney. It is so bad. It is a god-awful song. It is unbelievably bright and cheerful, like fucking Mickey Mouse in the old days, doing his ABCs with someone. It's a really bad track. I hate it. It's really, really shit. So that is that for that track. It's crap. I hate it. I Know It Hurts is a pretty kind of straightforward song, to be honest, but I really like it nonetheless. Has this kind of good kind of rhythm to it. It's not really much to it. I just kind of like the rhythm of it. The verse, I think, has a good kind of melody to it. Again, from Mark. It's probably fingerpicked because it does kind of sound like it's got the intricacy of fingerpicking. But I could be wrong. It's just, to my ear, it sounds like it's something that would be fingerpicked, because there's a lot of kind of multiple kind of notes and string skipping, so I think you would need multiple fingers in order to kind of portray it and pull it off. But it's a beautiful sounding verse and everything. But as for the chorus, it's got this great kind of mid-heaviness, mid-tempo kind of flow to it, and then it has the open sections where Miles just kind of has this beautiful voice and everything. It's got a great melody to it, and then it's got that kind of mid-tempo, mid-heaviness kind of rhythm to it, just to give it a bit more kind of that little bit of an impact. And then you get the beautiful verse again. I just really like the kind of heavy rhythms mixed in with these beautiful verses. I really like it. I think it sounds great. All the song is basically your intro, your kind of verse, your chorus, your verse, your chorus, and it is but all basically the same. The verse, chorus don't really ever change. So again, it is quite basic, and then the solo at the end is of one style. It is pretty technical and a bit quick, which kind of like Sinister Gates' Afterlife. I kind of think I Know It Hurts solo is not as good as the solo of Afterlife by Avenged Sevenfold, but good nonetheless. It is pretty fast paced. That is mostly all the solo is. But Mark Tremonti kind of does change up the kind of positioning of what he's doing to make it have different pitches and different speeds of the kind of shred that he's doing, to give it some variation and give it a bit of like a musical element and a melody to it and everything. So even though it is very fast and technical, I think he pulls it off to make it sound musical and beautiful. So I really like it. Show Me a Sign is, again, one of these really kind of slow, somber songs, but it has a fantastic solo. It's really, really beautiful, great melody. It's a new thing for Mark Tremonti, because Mark Tremonti does do the usual kind of hard, aggressive style of thing, but on this album, he's definitely kind of trying to show off more of his kind of musical side, and he does definitely have it. So I think it is a kind of good example of an album to show that Tremonti does have this other side to him, because he always usually does kind of stick with the heavy stuff. So I think this is a nice kind of take for what Tremonti can do and everything. So yeah, Show Me a Sign. It is one of the kind of slower songs again. It's not too bad. It is a little dull at times, but if you're kind of in the right mood and you got the kind of ear for it, then it is a very nice, relaxed kind of track and everything, with great vocals and a fantastic solo. Fallout, again, is kind of like I Know It Hurts. It has great melody and rhythm in its verses with Mark, and it's just really well thought out rhythms. They really just show just how great they are at doing rhythms that aren't just really basic chord rhythms. It has intricacy, it has beauty to it, it's uplifting, it's really beautiful rhythms that they do, and Fallout does it again. The actual chorus is probably not as good as I Know It Hurts, with the kind of mix between the kind of heavy chug along kind of mid-tempo, mid-heavy kind of stuff mixed in with the kind of more kind of musical stuff. Fallout is just these kind of open kind of chord things for the chorus, so not really much there. But the verses are really nice. The solo, again, in this song, really good solo. Brief again kind of goes back to the slow element, but has still some beauty to it. A good solo. Coeur d'Alene, I really like Coeur d'Alene because it has this great build, and it is unique compared to the rest of the album because of the kind of sound it has. Now, I think Coeur d'Alene has this real kind of creepy kind of tone to it. So as Coeur d'Alene kind of starts, it's just kind of Miles, and it's just these open kind of pick kind of strings. It's just like a slow pick down the strings, clean channel. So just ta-ran, ta-ran. So it's just these really light stuff, and then Miles, and it doesn't sound too menacing. It's got a little bit of a menace about it, but you're not really sure what mood it's going for. So you think it may be, but you're not really sure where it's going. Then you get the really menacing, heavy chugging rhythm of the guitar in the background, just dun 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 in the background with Miles's voice, and Miles has this echo to his voice, like he's isolated in this big open space, with the kind of effect that they've put into his voice, and then the effect of the guitar and everything just sounds really demonic, really creepy. And I like that because it starts really soft, and then you got this guitar just in the background. It just sounds like there's this menacing, demonic thing in the background, and then Miles, the effect on his voice makes it sound like he's trapped, he's isolated. So I just kind of like the kind of tones, the effects they put in, the kind of whole feel of this really menacing, creepy, verse, and just the build-up of it, I just think is really incredible. I love the tone and the sound that they've got going for it. I haven't heard that many kind of tones like this, so it is very unique to me. The chorus actually does kind of get brighter and everything, and goes a little musical. But then it still has its kind of really hard, aggressive rhythms to it while Miles isn't singing. So when Miles stops singing in the chorus, they'll go to something really kind of heavy and aggressive, back to doing the kind of more musical stuff. Then they go back and do a similar verse, but then the chorus actually does change all three times. The first chorus is just kind of the simple kind of open chords kind of stuff things. And then the second chorus, there'll be this little kind of faint lead interlude that kind of flows through the chorus. And then when you get to the third chorus, it actually comes to the forefront, and you got this really nice, intense kind of lead flowing through the entire chorus. Just every time it comes around, there's just more life and more beauty put into the chorus, coming off of these demonic verses. I just really like the multiple contrast, the emotions, the kind of feels and the sounds and the kind of thoughts that I get listening to this song. I think it's really well executed. The solo again is a really beautiful solo, well played, has some intricacy, has some melody, has some catchy elements. It's a really good, solid track. Life Must Go On, again, it's kind of slows things down. There's not really much to it. Words Darker Than Your Wings is a track which is actually not got a solo, but it is a rather interesting track, which is a big kind of thing for Alter Bridge. This track, Worse Darker Than Their Wings, because in this track you kind of get your actual lead debut of Mark Tremonti on lead vocals. Now, it doesn't take the entire song by force and by storm. We have to wait till Fortress for that. But, yeah, you basically... When I first listened to this album, I actually didn't know it was fucking Mark. I just thought, Miles, Jesus Christ, you have some great sounds, seeing that you can do all these different kind of tones and everything, because I thought it was bloody him. So I just thought, wow, that sounds incredible, Miles, and you have great range. So, yeah, the song basically kind of starts with Miles, and then later on, Mark comes in with this different kind of tone. Miles is kind of a brighter kind of tone and everything. Mark has a deeper kind of voice and everything, more kind of masculinity in his voice. So there is some kind of contrast between the two. Both their voices are definitely not the same, so it does give two different kind of contrasts and feels and tones and, you know, things, which is great to kind of show, you know, different diversities through the song. So I do really like it when you have two great singers and you used both of them just to give different kind of realms and diversity to the song. I think that's great, and I think bands who have this potential should do it more often than not. So it definitely does give a whole new kind of flavour and life to the song, just having Mark actually come in with the vocals. And it's his first performance, and he's rather good. He is pretty good. He's gotten better as he's obviously kind of trained and adapted, and has been taught from a guitar tutor. So he's definitely gotten better, but it's been his debut. He is really good. He has a great voice on him. Miles does have more variety. He is the better singer, but Mark does nail it. He is great. So, yeah, there's not really much else to the song. It has some intricate kind of moments, just, you know, the layering of the song. But there is no solo. Near the end of the track, you do get this really high note from Miles Kennedy that is really intense and sounds just incredible. So there is a great high note at the end of the track, which is great for it being the end of the album for AB3. So great way to end on a really great high note, and to have the first experience hearing Mark's voice, because before this no one had ever really heard of him apart from maybe faintly in the background, because he has been the backing vocalist. So even though there's no solo in it, it has a great high note from Miles, and it is a great introduction for the lead vocals of Mark Tremonti. And other than that, the song does sound nice. It has good melody to it, and it's not that bad. Now, bringing it back to AB 3.5. So later they released 0.5, which was basically the album released it yet again, but with 3 extra tracks at the end, that being Zero, Home, and Never Born to Follow. The album, if you get physical, also came with a DVD documentary of the band discussing kind of like, I've seen so many that I don't know which one this was for. There's a few documentaries on Alter Bridge, but I believe it's basically just kind of like talking about AB3, their experience with it, kind of doing it live as well, and I think it had the fact that it was one of the interviews where they said Wonderful Life was shit. Miles said when he goes live, he may not talk to fans, and some fans may be upset about it, and he feels bad about it, but when he's got a show to do, he'll go the whole day without speaking at all. So if they need to speak over the set and everything, it's very complicated when it comes to Miles, and Miles does know this because he wants his voice to just be relaxed until he goes out and performs. So the first time he will actually speak is just moments before the show, where he'll train it in and warm it up. So then he has the full energy. He hasn't used his vocal cords. So people have appreciated that. So it's basically just all about that, just to kind of make an AB 3.5 to tour, how they do things. So that is basically it. So the 3 extra tracks are 0.5. Now, Some people, not everyone, a lot of people just think 3 extra tracks, brilliant, love it. But then there's the odd people who will know that point 5 or a re-release of an album where they release extra tracks, these are usually known as B-sides. Now, some people do have a massive problem with B-sides. Now, what are B-sides to people who don't know? B-sides basically means that these tracks were originally there at the start of AB3. They're not new tracks. They have always been there. They just weren't on the album. Now, the reason for this is basically a band will record a lot of tracks, and not all tracks will make the album. Most albums will have tracks that are just left on the cutting room floor and will never see the light of day. Now, this is basically because not everything a band will make in the studio is going to be perfect. Some of them won't have the right tone with the album. Some of them just won't fit. The flow will not work. Some of them are just downright crap, so they won't put them in the album. Now, because of this, basically, it doesn't fit into the album. It's not got the right sense of tone. It doesn't have the right sense of feel. It messes up the kind of flow of the album. The songs are crap. They're not that good. We'll leave them off. Leave some people, like the general audience, not really giving B-sides the chance because they know this, because the band does not think they're good enough. And sometimes these tracks aren't. So that could technically be the same with these 3 extra tracks. Now, I don't know if these are actually B-sides or if the band actually did do 3 extra tracks. I imagine they're B-sides, so tracks that didn't make the album because the band decided not to put them onto the album because they weren't good enough or it didn't have the right flow to it and it just didn't fit in. So, is this the case? Are they not that good? Are they a little worse? Did they not have the right flow? Does it sound like something that should have been on Blackbird, or is it something completely different? So let's basically try and go over the 3. So, all of the 3 of them do kind of have the same sort of tone as AB3. They do have that feel about them. They don't go super soft. All 3 of them don't go super soft. They have great melodies to them, as well as nice kind of heavy-ish hard rock elements to them as well. 1 track I think doesn't have a solo, 2 tracks I think do, or maybe 1 track has a solo and the other 2 don't. I'm not sure, but the solo, if not 2 of them that are here, both of them, if not 1 of them, are both, or 1, really, really good. I do know that. The solos are actually incredibly good, better than that of a fair few of the solos that has been in AB3. Now, the fact that there is great melody to it, there's some really great vocal work, then there's some really great heavy moments, so you've got some beautiful melodies, and then some really energetic, engaging kind of choruses and stuff, makes it have a better kind of more engaging flow than something where you have to really be in the right mood to listen to something really slow and melodic. So, pretty much all 3 of these tracks are better than a lot of tracks on here. Zero Home and Never Born to Follow are definitely better than Wonderful Life by fucking far. I hate that track. As well as All Hope Is Gone, Days Gone By probably, Still Remains. There are a fair few tracks that Zero and Home and Never Born to Follow are way better than the other tracks. So I don't know why they left them out. They have definitely a better flow throughout the track, just keeping things interesting with nice cheerful melodies instead of being something really dreary and depressing and slow and dull throughout the fucking song. There's bright elements, there's some beautiful melodies mixed in with some more energetic stuff and some amazing solos, some beautiful vocal work instead of something really dark and dreary. They're really good tracks. So it's a shame they didn't incorporate it into the album and take out some of the shit, to be honest. Or at least keep everything together, but put these 3 in positions that would have the flow of the album a bit better instead of getting a lot of chunks of really slow, dull songs. So you've got a slow song and then straight after that you've got something a bit more energetic. Because when you have a complete chunk of just really slow songs, it is a real pain for a lot of people to get through. I know one person who's listening to me, who's the person who comments on every video. He knows exactly what I'm saying. I'm sure if he listens to an album and there's a massive chunk of really slow songs, I'm pretty sure he's going to have a brutal time getting through them. Myself included, I have to really be in the right frame of mind to listen to this album throughout, because you just really have to be in that mindset to appreciate it, to be accepting of these slow stuff. If you're not, you just want something kind of fun and to keep you engaged and everything, the flow is just going to be a bit too slow and drab for you, that it'll just take you out. So it would definitely improve if Zero and Home and Never Born to Follow were sprinkled through the album to kind of better kind of separate these dull songs and to have the kind of flow just go from heavy to heavy to melodic instead of getting big chunks and things. So I think they could have actually used these tracks to mix the songs, and some of these tracks are actually better than a fair few of these tracks, which makes it just weird, the fact that they actually think these are some of the worst tracks, worse than mostly all tracks on the album, if they are in fact therefore B-sides. It's really stupid. So I don't really get it. It makes the band come across as a little dumb to me, the fact that they actually prefer some tracks that are actually really bad, and they actually think tracks that are pretty great are actually shit. It's rather unusual to me. It makes the band's kind of thought process and obviously what they think is good and bad wrong, which goes to show me just that their minds aren't great when it comes to kind of picking a good song from a bad song. So that is AB 3.5. So the album is really unique, and I always ask for an album to do something really unique. So I can't really, say I don't like the fact that they've done this style, because then I'm going to be unbelievably hypocritical. So I do like the style. I really enjoy the style. Like the style in Coeur d'Alene, I love the style in that. Fallout, amazing. I Know It Hurts, amazing. Isolation is somewhat amazing. So I do like it, but I think they stumble and stay in these really dreary elements, and they don't just give enough kind of life and energy into a fair few of these songs. And again, missing these fucking solos in some songs is an absolute pain. You've got two incredible guitarists, and then when they do solos that hardly last, Slip to the Void, I'm just going to do a whittle here, then leave, and then a whittle, then leave, then a whittle again, and then leave, and then a whittle again, and then leave, is really stupid. It's incredibly lazy. Isolation, you have two different guitarists with two completely different worlds, and Miles is just copying what Mark has just previously done. It's just like, he's just been doing that. You should give something different. Give us some variation. And it's just the fact that they didn't know to do that is really concerning, really. The fact that they didn't think of that. All Hope Is Gone has a solo which loads thinks are great, but there's barely anything to it. It doesn't last. There should be more length to it. There should be more life and energy in it. Ghost of Days Gone By, there's barely a solo in that. It's really terrible. Wonderful Life is just bloody god awful. It's a terrible track. There is a lot of bad things and some really bad solos in this album, but there's some great unique moments of some great melody, great intricate stuff, some beautiful solos, beautiful work and musicianship, really beautiful things. So it's a darn shame that it's just not really consistent. You have chunks of things which are kind of, and then there's things that are like, God, I just don't like this, and then there's some chunks of really dreary things that you need to be in the right mood for to kind of accept it and appreciate it. So it makes it very complicated. It's not really an approachable album. It's definitely for a certain kind of ear, a certain type of person, a certain mood. So I don't think it's that approachable. I don't think it's easily listening. There are some tracks which have really terrible stuff. Wonderful Life, All Hope Is Gone, Ghost of Days Gone By is a bit dreary as well, but there is some amazing things. Like I Know It Hurts, I think is a really good track. Fallout, I think it's great. Coeur d'Alene is great, but most of the album is basically just things of just like this track has a really good thing, and then the rest of it's meh. And then this track has this one really great thing, and then the rest is meh. There's a lot that is just kind of and that is mostly it. But then you'll have something really epic and unbelievable. So it's a shame that everything else is surrounded by mehs and things that are so terrible. And you only get these handfuls and sprinkles of unbelievable things and beautiful stuff. Unbelievable things. Really unique, different, amazing. Something not really heard before. Beauty, melody, great musicianship, great thought, great playing. And it's just got so much net and just typical dull things just holding it back. Therefore, it is a shame. And the fact that Zero, Home and Never Born to Follow had to come later, and 3 of these tracks are a lot better than a fair majority of this album, and yet the band thinks they're the worst, is really disconcerting. It's definitely a little weird. So rating this album, there's some great things, there's some great solos, there's some really crap solos, and then songs which have nobody solos because the band are fucking lazy and they can't be bothered. And there's some really crap songs, and there's some really good songs, and there's a lot of meh. It's a bit of a mess. And you definitely have to be in the right mindset to really get through this album and really appreciate it in its entirety. Other than that, the majority of people, I think, will come into the album and appreciate what it is, what it does, the uniqueness of it, but will only get it out of a small handful of songs. And that will be the majority. The minority will be the people who can appreciate the whole thing. Lyrically, it's also said to be a very dark album, but to be honest, this album is very bright and cheerful and musical sounding to me, so it's weird that the lyrical content is excruciatingly dark, yet musically it's incredibly bright. I think that's a little weird. But rating this, it's hard. I did appreciate this more than I used to, but I've been listening to new music for a while now doing this channel. I've seen so many great bands and musicians out there that have definitely surpassed Alter Bridge, which just keeps pushing Alter Bridge down and just showing me that actually their songs are not that technical, they're not that advanced, their structures aren't great, they're not doing some really deep, thought out songs at all. So originally I could have thought AB3 was 8 upwards, but now listening to it, there is so much meh and so much kind of dullness to it. I still know there is some great elements and brilliant stuff in there. Unbelievable beauty, like seriously. Coeur d'Alene, I think, has some great stuff in there, and Fallout, and I Know It Hurts, like them verses of fingerpick stuff, as well as Ghost of Days Gone By, them rhythms and fingerpicks things, they are so fucking beautiful. Like, I can't stress that enough. Them finger-picked verses in these songs by Mark are so unbelievably fucking beautiful. It's unreal how unbelievably gorgeous them verses are. They are incredible, them riffs. So, unbelievable. But it's a darn shame. There is so much just weights just pulling these, gem moments out. So it's going to definitely weigh it down to probably a 7.8. It's a good album. It's a pretty good album, but it's not going to get anywhere to kind of great because there is a lot of baggage with this. Some crap solos, crap songs, some really slow moments that really kind of are a bit of a drag to get through with the album. So there are a fair few things holding it down. So I think 7.8 is as fair as I can really be for this. So that is it for this album. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm sorry that, as per usual, I take 1,000 years to explain myself. It is unbelievably annoying. So yeah, fuck me. Yeah, I agree. Fuck me. So I won't waste any more of your time. That is it. The end of the review. Finally, thank fucking Christ. I can fucking stop listening to this cunt. So, yep, thanks for staying with me. If you have, really appreciate it. I would love if you could support me, but if not, then I just hope that you enjoyed. So, until then, I hope to see all of you some point later in the future. Until then, bye.